While the severity and type of damage in a generation depend on what mistake had occurred, one event in human history has psychological, developmental, physical, and economic consequences. If a missing piece of information was known before the distribution of thalidomide, perhaps the prevention of many mothers accidentally etching themselves into the timeline of the thalidomide tragedy could have been avoided. Extremely effective against leprosy, multiple myeloma, and more commonly nausea, flu, and colds. Thalidomide was a pharmaceutical drug that became increasingly popular in the West. To reduce the effect of morning sickness, pregnant women would take this drug, and thalidomide, originally only used as a sedative, had been tested before. A major flaw of the German pharmaceutical company Chemin Grenthal GmbH failed to test, however, was the effects of the drugs on pregnant women, for there was enough understanding of the performance of thalidomide. Despite this, the drug was given to thousands of expectant mothers, and this misinformation about the drug led to the birth defects of around 10,000 children. These defects ranged from deformed limbs to defective organs. And more than 60 years later, the consequences of thalidomide have not only forever changed how society views medicine, but still linger in the baby boomer generation. The tragedy brought a lot of change to the medical scene, and today researchers have extensively studied the effects of various drugs, including thalidomide. So what went wrong? Well, the harmful effects of thalidomide can be boiled down to enantiomers. And so enantiomers weren't like the reason that these children had birth defect, or there's birth defects in children, but it was the way enantiomers work. And so when a compound can have a mirror image, this pair can be a race mixture. And so they have the same formula, the same chiral centers, but they're not superimposable or they're not identical. And so what happened is that when the pharmaceutical company released these drugs, they had both the R-thalidomide and an enantiomer, the S-thalidomide, and they have totally different properties and functions. And so this property for the S-thalidomide was teratogenic, which meant that it harmed infants. And so and the result, when both of these were sold and women took both of the enantiomers, obviously the infants perhaps got the S thalidomide, and that harmed that in result harmed the children. And so it's important for scientists and researchers to know from now on, because when they now sell the thalidomide, they always sell the R version, and it's important to continually learn and understand what these drugs do and their effects and their properties, because of course while these drugs help society advance, it is equally important to know the dangers and consequences that can come with these drugs when not fully researched.